Thanks for tuning in to the Live from the Digital Media Zone. We just got done from hearing some more presentations in the General Assembly Hall. And now joining me on stage is the head of Qualcomm Wireless Reach, Angela Baker.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Qualcomm Wireless Reach is doing some phenomenal things using mobile broadband to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. They have programs currently in how many countries?
Over 40 countries.
24 countries. So why don't you tell people, for people who aren't familiar with Qualcomm and with Qualcomm Wireless Reach, what the company and your initiative do?
Sure, so Qualcomm is the world's largest producer of mobile chipsets that go in mobile devices, e-readers, tablets. And we're looking at Wireless Reach, we're looking at how we can leverage the benefits of mobile for social and economic impact globally. So we're Qualcomm's strategic corporate social responsibility program. We've been around for about 10 years. Qualcomm's been around for 30 years. And to date, we have over 100 programs in over 40 countries that are looking at how we can use mobile in the areas of health, entrepreneurship, public safety, the environment, and education.
And Qualcomm Wireless Reach has, would you say it's a bit of a unique approach to CSR?
I would
different from other corporations?
Yeah, I think there's been a movement sort of in companies to really tie corporate responsibility into business goals. And that's why we classify ourselves as a strategic corporate responsibility program. So we're looking at how, going into emerging markets, working in markets in where Qualcomm has a vested interest, leveraging new technologies that are coming out. So for example, we've got some programs which are using wearable devices. And so I think it is kind of unique. That was one of the things I was really drawn to, is that, Qualcomm's looking at it from a business perspective, but also from a social and economic impact perspective.
Yeah, it's not just about alleviating any kind of accusations around trafficking or accusations around making people work too long. It's about integrating into the business goals.
Right, fundamentally, like what the heart of Qualcomm is, which is building chipsets and mobile technology. How can we use that to make the world a better place?
And so what are the main verticals that you're covering in social impact as far as the SDGs go? Sure.
So we actually, I would say the overarching goal would be goal 9, right? So that's the innovation and infrastructure, innovation and infrastructure goal. And so obviously we're looking at technology globally, but then I think we sort of touch on every goal, right? We've got programs in education, we've got programs in gender equality, we've got programs in health, programs in public safety. So we are sort of working across the spectrum, but the common theme there is that all of our programs are leveraging 3G, 4G mobile broadband technology.
And I actually had the opportunity to go with the Qualcomm Wireless Reach team to India and to Senegal. And we saw some really remarkable programs around healthcare in India, as well as microfinance. Would you like to talk about the healthcare program first?
Sure, sure. So India is one of our biggest portfolios. Again, from a strategic perspective, it's a very important market to Qualcomm. And of course, with Prime Minister Modi's Digital India platform, where he's looking to build up, technology and innovation across India, we have a lot of programs in that country. So the two that you got to visit, the first one was called M-Saki, which is a program that works with ASHAs, which are the frontline healthcare workers in India, mostly women that go out and work with pregnant women, so women that are about to have babies. And before they were going into the homes of these women and they were writing everything down, everything was paper-based. It was sort of inefficient, and it wasn't allowing for the sharing of information. So if one ASHA visited a home, that information, nobody else could get access to that information. In addition, they're getting a lot of training, but now with the use of mobile devices, these ASHAs are getting audio and video trainings on the mobile device, which they can access whenever they need to. So if they need to rewatch, or if they want to, refreshen their learnings on these counseling sessions that they're giving pregnant women. And then when they go into these homes of pregnant women for the prenatal visits, they can access the information and then upload it on the mobile device. So that information is now in a central database, which is allowing, local health ministries to also have access to that health information. So it's streamlining processes and making it more efficient.
Yeah, and it's just speaking from experience, I was only there for a short time, but being there and seeing how mobile technology is working in a developing nation like that, it's such a dichotomy. We were in a village where there's goats running by, and there's people getting their water from wells, and just living in these small houses in these villages, and then they're using their phones and exchanging healthcare information, and they're uploading their information, getting children registered, and it just shows you that mobile broadband, it's not just a commercial thing. It really can change the world.
Right, and one of the great things about that program, which I think a lot of our programs is, the multiplier effect. So that's a health program. We're focusing on, helping pregnant women get access to information that they need. But the byproduct of that is that we're helping to train these ashas, which are women in India. They're getting digital literacy skills. They're learning how to use the mobile device for professional manner as opposed to just always, personal manner, connecting with family and friends. So they're also building their skill set while also making their work more efficient and effective. So there's all of these layers to the program, even though overall it's a health program. There's also a women's empowerment angle to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and all the SDGs are completely interconnected.
Right.
Right.
Right. And of course there's so many SDGs, which is great because it allows for these, even the subsets of the SDGs, there's things that you can pull out of that tie into all of them. So of course, gender, like for example, we have an education program in Myanmar. It's an education program where we're working with Ericsson, UNESCO, DFID, a number of large partners, but it's an education program overall, so it fits into the education SDG lens. But in addition, we're also helping to help keep girls in school. So there's the gender equality lens, and then there's the mobile technology lens, which is goal 9. So I think they all sort of do interconnect with each other.
And I'd love to touch on Senegal just a little bit because I got to be there.
Yes.
And we went to visit some fishermen, some artisanal fishermen in Senegal, where fishing is the largest industry,
if not one of
the
them,
most important, largest industry there. And would you explain what Qualcomm Wireless Reach actually did in implementing, getting the phones there, getting them distributed, and then there's an amazing app that's being used that addresses so many issues that people there are facing, not just helping them with their fishery.
Absolutely. So in Senegal, we have a fishing program. Melissa and I were both there to visit it in Mbor. And one of the great things about this program is that it's leveraging mobile technology to allow fishermen to get a range of information across the mobile device, so on this mobile application. One of them being weather and wave information, so they can feel safe when they go out to fish in the morning, so they have access to that information so they know if it's going to be safe for them to go out onto the water. In addition, when they're coming back to land after they have their catch, there's GPS tracking in the app, so they can make sure that they're staying within the fishing zones in which they need to be, that they're not going into illegal fishing waters. When they come back to land, they can see what the market prices are on land, so they know to negotiate for a fair price for the catch that they've made for the day. And then there's also some health components in the app around TB, HIV, and AIDS information so that they can get access to that information on the app, even though it doesn't necessarily tie in right to their fishing program. That program, we just started that. We do have fishing programs in India, Brazil, and Colombia as well. In Senegal, we're working with 50 fishermen and fish processors, and the fish processors there are women. They're the women that are getting the fish once it comes into land and drying it. And they're getting access to information on the app about market prices as well, and also training videos so that they can learn more effective ways of drying the fish so they can be better at their jobs. And the response I think we saw from the fishermen and from these fish processors was really overwhelming. They were really excited by the application. A lot of them had already used mobile technology, so it wasn't certainly introducing something new. But the app is available on the Google Play Store, so anybody in Senegal would be able to access it. And they had really positive things to say about how it's helping to improve their business and improve access to microfinance and those types of things.
And then how does Qualcomm Wireless Reach go about measuring impact? I know that the SDGs are really important to your initiative, but how are you measuring how much further you need to go and what things need to be changed and what things need to be improved upon?
Sure. This is one of the things that I think I'm really excited about that we're doing at Wireless Reach. And of course, SDGs sort of help drive the vision of the programs and the type of programs that we're funding. But we have a very robust monitoring and evaluation profile, I would say. So a couple of years ago, we brought on a compliance manager and a data manager. And she, along with others on the team, helped to craft a monitoring and evaluation platform. So all grantees that we give money to, so the local organizations with whom we're working in country, every quarter submit quarterly reports to us where they're tracking financials, data, qualitative and quantitative data. At the beginning of a program, we work with them on a logical framework so that we're helping to set up, outcomes and inputs for which we're going to measure against over the lifetime of the grant. And then Wireless Reach, we've got a number of program managers that are involved in these programs, bi-weekly calls with partners on the ground, site visits, which is what we just did a few weeks ago, so that we are tracking that data and ensuring, one, that we're setting ourselves up for success, and that we can pivot if we need to. So if something's not going right in the program, or if the partner wants to change it because something makes more sense, we have the ability to do that because we're tracking that data as it goes.
And how, when it comes to the corporate side of Qualcomm, communicating with Qualcomm Wireless Reach, are they in the know every step of the way of how the programs are being integrated and the success that you're seeing? And are they able to take any leads from that or insights and information from that and actually bring that back to the business?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say every step of the way, because again, as you know, if you're working in these areas or in these countries, you know, sometimes these programs take time to set up. So it's certainly not instantaneous results. But we definitely work with the corporate side. So the Wireless Reach program sits within the Government Affairs Division. Again, like I said, with the Digital India program in India, a number of governments have these types of programs where they're trying to drive technology usage or integrate technology into these broad policy agendas like health or education. And so we sit within the Government Affairs Division, but we work very closely with our corporate side on both talking about the results once we get those monitoring and evaluation results in, and talking about the technology and how it's being leveraged. So for example, Qualcomm invests a lot of money in R&D, and we're looking at building new technologies. So of course, traditionally we're known for the chipset inside smartphones, but you know, there's wearable technology coming out, there's drone technology coming out. And we're looking at Wireless Reach, how we can be some of those test cases for these technologies in these policy issue areas of health, education, entrepreneurship, and sharing that with our corporate team and working very closely with them on that.
Are there any major challenges that not just Qualcomm Wireless Reach, but that mobile broadband is facing in terms of even having a deeper social impact? You know, in India, one of the villages we visited, the phones were distributed and the apps were being used, and the healthcare activists were so gracious and enthusiastic, but connectivity is sometimes an issue. Sure. Because these are remote villages far away from the big city. Is there anything being done to tie those things together? Sure.
So I think when we go into projects and we're working with partners, we usually, I would say 90% of the time, bring a mobile operator in. So we're working with mobile operator partners. You can think of them like the Sprints or Verizon in the US. Or the AT&Ts, to make sure that we're working in areas in which there are connectivity or to help spread connectivity. Because of course, mobile broadband is becoming more ubiquitous, but it's not everywhere yet. So that certainly is an issue. Of course, there's also the issue around charging and making sure that there's enough electricity to charge the devices. We're working on with some partners on things like solar charging, especially in places in like sub-Saharan Africa. So those are also things that we're looking into working, because that's also an issue as well. And I think that there are, of course, challenges around technology. You know, these are tools, right? These are not the be-all and end-all solution. So you can't just throw a bunch of devices at people and expect them to change the way they do their jobs. I mean, I certainly wouldn't do well if somebody just gave me a new tool and said, okay, now you have to do your job completely differently. So another big part of this is the people-to-people connection, the training, working with folks to make sure that it's what they need as opposed to what a corporation from the US is telling them they need, right? That's why it's really important to work within a local context, to have training, work with local partners in the local language. I mean, I think there's lots of challenges, but that over the last 10 years we've really worked to overcome, and especially with our local partners on a lot of these.
I could talk to you about this all day. I think I asked
too.
you too many questions, but I'd like to at least open it up for at least one or two questions. Does anybody have any in the audience?
Anyone curious?
Anybody? Anybody? Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering, what are the feedback loops? Because you say you work with local people, and that's absolutely wonderful. I'm wondering, what is it you have been surprised by that you've learned that you've been able to employ in some of your other projects working on these local projects? What have you learned as a group?
That's a great question. I think we're sort of always in this loop of lessons learned and sharing of best practices. You know, one of the things that we're looking to do in our education vertical right now is build an education grantee community, because we have about 40 education programs. And rather than getting the feedback from one program and having me, who sits in Washington, D.C., tell somebody in Kenya what worked for somebody in Malaysia, we're going to try to set up a grantee community to allow the grantees to talk with each other about lessons learned, what worked, what didn't work. One of the things that we have learned, I'll speak specifically to the education vertical, but I think health as well, is the training component. So I think initially, you know, right, we work with a lot of engineers at Qualcomm. We're 60% engineering, and engineers are really focused on results, right? They're really data-driven. But like I said, these things sometimes take more time. So I think the training of going into the classroom repeatedly and more frequently than you might think you need to work with teachers to make sure that they're mobile ready and that the mobile devices are working in a way that they want to work in the classroom, as opposed to what the local partner or the government or Qualcomm thinks works. And so I think those are some lessons that we've taken across the portfolio in health, education, public safety, to make sure that we're working on these training components and what kinds of training works. And sometimes that's training on the device, right through videos or audio, or sometimes that's training, for face-to-face, person-to-person trainings. Thank you for the question. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Dr. Bertrand Marcus. I just wanted to know if you have training for like exchange students and so forth, around the globe, or if it's just in specific countries.
So we don't have a program specifically for exchange students, although I'd always be open to looking into it. We have the content always is usually very localized. So for example, we're working on an education program in Kenya, and the Kenyan government has a national curriculum. So we're working with them to make that content mobile enabled for their students in their schools, right? Same thing across, we have programs in the US, but there are curriculums that are preset, and then we're working to integrate whether it's games or videos or flipped classroom models where kids, read the content at home and then come in the next day and talk about it. So I wouldn't say that we have a specific content that's for exchange students globally, but I mean, it could be something, there's a lot of mobile applications that are out there that are focused on education, and of course like Khan Academy and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela Baker,
Thanks for having me.
head of Qualcomm Wireless Reach. We need to go to our next segment. Where are we going? We're going to the General Assembly Hall. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Digital Media Zone.
Thank you.